My name is Sophia. I'm 30 years old, and if you ask me what shaped my childhood the most, I'd answer right away. The never-ending war with my sister, Madison. Madison is 1 year older than me, but it always felt like that gap was a deep, unbridgeable chasm. Even as kids, Madison had this strange habit. Whatever I did, she had to do it too, and she had to do it better. If I joined the basketball team, Madison joined too, then pushed herself like the family's honor depended on it. When I landed the lead role in our school play, Madison immediately auditioned for the lead in another production, and when she didn't get it, she cried loudly in the middle of the school lobby. Anyone who hasn't lived with Madison might think I'm exaggerating, but I remember that day vividly. The day I won first place in the state-level speech contest at 14. When the announcer called my name, Madison, standing in the crowd, immediately threw down the bouquet in her hands. On the way home, I had just placed the trophy on the shelf when Madison rushed over, grabbed it, and slammed it onto the floor so hard it broke in half. My mom was stunned into silence, and my dad demanded Madison apologize. But she just stood there, eyes blazing with fury, then stormed off to her room and locked the door. After that, my parents took her to a therapist. They hoped Madison could learn to control her emotions and accept that she wouldn't always be the winner. But it didn't change anything. She went to a few sessions just to check a box, then quit, claiming no one understood her. High school was even worse. Madison stopped destroying my awards. Instead, she went after me directly. Every morning before school, she'd make snide comments about my outfit, calling me a fashion disaster in front of her friends. She'd scoff during my class presentations, whispering cruel jokes to her clique. If I started getting close to someone, Madison would pull them to her side, then drop me like I didn't exist. I was never the kind of kid who liked the spotlight. I preferred sketching and reading in the library over shouting on the schoolyard. Madison was the opposite. Always the center of attention, always needing to be the star. And somehow, even the smallest of my accomplishments felt like a personal threat to her. Though my parents loved us both, they couldn't ignore the problem. I once overheard them whispering in the living room, worried about Madison and wondering why she treated me like a rival. One Christmas, my mom even bought us matching bracelets, hoping we'd feel more connected. Madison tossed hers in the trash the next day. The worst moment came when I was 17. Our school held a science project competition, and after countless late nights in the lab, I won second place statewide. It was one of the rare moments I felt genuinely seen for my own effort. When I brought the certificate home, Madison barely glanced at it and muttered, "Probably just got lucky." I said nothing. I'd learned to swallow the hurt. But that night, I heard rustling in the basement where I kept the certificate. When I went to check, I found Madison trying to tear it apart. She stood there, hands trembling, eyes burning with the kind of hatred like I had stolen something sacred from her. I quietly stepped back. At that moment, I realized that no matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried to be kind, Madison would always see me as a thorn in her side. And I also realized, one day, this wouldn't just be about certificates, trophies, or teenage cruelty. One day, Madison would try to inflict damage that cut far deeper, wounds that would take years to heal. In my senior year of high school, I found a tiny corner of the world just for me: blogging. At the time, I just wanted a space to share thoughts and stories from daily life. I didn't expect much. I created a free blog and named it Sophia's Gray Days, posting short reflections on school, family, and friends. To my surprise, within a few months, I had thousands of views. Local shops started sending me products to review. From small gifts like notebooks and mugs, I eventually began getting paid for my posts. It wasn't a lot, but for a high schooler, earning a few $100s a month felt magical. My parents were thrilled and helped me open a savings account in my name to prepare for college. Madison found out about the blog through a post shared by one of my friends. When she realized I was making money, she nearly lost it. One evening at dinner, she slammed her phone on the table and sneered, "You mean people actually pay for that nonsense you write? The world's really gone mad." I didn't respond. I had learned long ago that arguing with Madison only made things worse. But just a week later, Madison started her own blog. She named it Madison's Diary and announced to everyone that she'd be more famous than me within a month. She copied almost everything I did: the layout, how I added images, even how I introduced products. But the difference was, Madison didn't love it. Her writing was shallow and insincere, and readers could tell. While my blog kept growing, hers barely got any attention. She began begging me to share her posts on my site. I refused. Madison exploded, calling me selfish, and posted mocking, passive-aggressive messages about me online. I bit my tongue. I knew the more I reacted, the more fuel she'd have. Then came college admissions. Both Madison and I dreamed of getting into St. Clair, a prestigious Ivy League school where our mom once studied. Madison applied to St. Clair and another Ivy. I focused solely on St. Clair. When Madison got her rejection letter, she smashed a table lamp in the living room. My mom had to cradle her and wipe her tears while I stood frozen on the stairs, gripping my own unopened acceptance letter. A week later, I got the email. I was in. I spent the whole night debating whether to tell my family. Deep down, I knew it wasn't my fault, but I couldn't bear another one of Madison's outbursts. In the end, I gave the letter to my parents and asked them to help me tell her. That night, they arranged a small family dinner. They broke the news gently, hoping Madison would share in the joy. But I was too naive. Madison froze, then suddenly stood up and shoved her chair back so hard it toppled. Her voice cut through the room, cold as ice. "There's no way! Sophia got into St. Clair? You've got to be kidding me." My mom tried to explain that my academic record was strong, that the school looked at the whole picture, not just popularity. Madison scoffed, eyes full of contempt. "She doesn't have what it takes to get in there. If I got rejected, she should have had the decency to back off." My dad slammed his hand on the table, demanding she stop. But Madison didn't argue. She just grabbed her coat and walked out, leaving behind a chilling silence. That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at the acceptance letter. The St. Clair dream, the one I'd worked for all those years, suddenly felt dim next to the pain of knowing Madison would never truly be happy for me. I left my parents' home to begin a new chapter at St. Clair, full of hope and, to be honest, a sense of relief. Away from Madison, I could finally breathe. That's where I met Lucas, the first man who made me feel truly worthy of unconditional love. Lucas wasn't like the guys Madison flaunted online. He was gentle, thoughtful, and always listened, even to the smallest things. We met at a fall seminar in our sophomore year, both volunteering as event assistants. From the first moment, I felt a warmth from him, something I rarely experienced in all those years living in Madison's shadow. We dated for over 3 years, through stressful exams, busy internships, and weekend getaways to his hometown in Vermont. When I graduated with honors, Lucas knelt under the maple tree in front of the school, held out a simple silver ring, and asked if I'd walk through life with him. I cried like never before. Not out of surprise, but because, for the first time in my life, I truly felt chosen. Not because someone was comparing, not because someone needed to outshine me, but simply because I was me. We didn't rush into a wedding. We both agreed our careers should come first, and more importantly, I wanted time to plan something small and meaningful, nothing flashy. At that time, Madison was also engaged to a man named Tyler, a successful banker she proudly showed off everywhere. Though we weren't close anymore, I still sent her a message to congratulate her when I heard about the proposal. All I got in return was a half-hearted smiley emoji. Life might have continued peacefully if it hadn't been for what happened to Lucas's family. His younger brother, Ethan, who was just 21, was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The news hit like a thunderstorm on a clear day. Ethan was so young, with so many dreams left unfinished. Lucas's family was devastated. One night, after we'd both been by Ethan's side at the hospital, Lucas took my hand, his eyes red but his voice more certain than ever. He said, "I don't know how much time I have left with my brother, but I know one thing. I don't want to wait another second to call you my wife." I looked at him, tears welling up. In that moment, I understood. Love doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. And I said yes. We held a small ceremony in the backyard of Lucas's parents' home. Just our families, a few close friends, and Ethan. Brought to the front row in a wheelchair, his face thin but his eyes sparkling with joy. I didn't think much about Madison while planning the wedding. I thought she would understand, or at least sympathize given the circumstances. But I was wrong. As soon as my mom told her I was engaged and planning a wedding in 2 weeks, Madison called me. Her voice sharp as a blade. "Well, that's no surprise. You've always loved stealing the spotlight from me." I tried to stay calm, explaining Ethan's condition and Lucas's wishes. But Madison wouldn't listen. She screamed, accusing me of using someone else's tragedy as an excuse to marry before her. "I'll never forgive you," Madison said before hanging up. "From now on, don't consider us sisters." I stood there holding the phone, heart heavy. Part of me hurt. Even after everything, I'd still hoped for reconciliation someday. But another part, the part that had grown up, just felt relieved. My early marriage to Lucas was sweet. Even though losing Ethan left a deep scar, we leaned on each other. A year later, when I told Lucas I was pregnant, he held me so tightly, tears slipping down his face. It was our first truly joyful moment after so many gray days. I named the baby Aurora, because I believed she would bring light back into our lives. Pregnancy was rough. I had severe morning sickness, constant fatigue, and often felt like I was drowning in a storm. Lucas was stressed with a new job, but he still tried to be there for every doctor visit and prepared everything for the baby. I kept thinking, if we could just get through this part, everything would get better. The night I went into labor, everything happened so fast I wasn't ready. I called Lucas, but he didn't pick up. I texted, called again, and finally asked my mom to take me to the hospital. Through the crushing pain, I clutched my phone, hoping Lucas would show. My parents took turns comforting me. My mom never let go of my hand. But deep inside, a cold dread began to spread through my chest. As I lay on the hospital bed, drenched in sweat and pain rippling through me, my phone buzzed. My mom grabbed it. Her face instantly froze. I knew in that moment something terrible had happened. I snatched the phone. On the screen was a message from Madison, along with a photo. Lucas and Madison in bed together, bare and shameless. The message, short and cruel, hit me like a knife to the chest. "Happy motherhood, Sophia. He's mine now." I couldn't breathe. Labor pain, humiliation, betrayal, everything collided into a tidal wave that crushed me in what should have been the most sacred moment of my life. I called Lucas. After 4 rings, he finally answered. His voice was calm, disturbingly so. "What's wrong, Sophia?" I couldn't hold back. I screamed through my tears, asking why, asking how long he'd been betraying me. Lucas stayed silent for a long time, then sighed, like this conversation was just another burden he needed to unload. "I'm sorry. Madison was there when you weren't. It started after Ethan's funeral. I felt empty, and she understood." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Madison, who had competed with me since the day I was born, had taken my husband. I dropped the phone. The world shattered into a million sharp, silent pieces around me. Aurora was born just as my heart was being torn apart. I cried through the delivery, not only from physical pain, but from the realization that the dream I'd worked so hard to build was gone. But when the nurse laid my daughter on my chest, and I saw Aurora's clear eyes, I swore with everything left in me, I would not let this betrayal destroy my life. I would rise. For my daughter. For myself. Once I recovered, I wasted no time cutting ties with the past. I packed my things and moved back in with my parents. I hired a lawyer. I was ready to fight. For custody, for freedom, for a life without the toxic shadows of Madison and Luke. I didn't hesitate to file for divorce. The day I walked into the lawyer's office holding newborn Aurora in a soft blanket, I made a promise to myself. I would fight for my daughter and our future. At first, Lucas acted cooperative, but when he learned I was seeking full custody and limited visitation, he pushed back. In meetings, he claimed he loved his daughter and deserved equal rights. But the evidence I had, the messages, the photos, witness statements about his betrayal and neglect, crushed any hope he had. The divorce trial was quicker than I expected. The judge granted me full custody. Lucas was allowed supervised visitation only. He was also ordered to pay monthly child support, per the agreement. I remember the day of the ruling clearly. As the judge read the final decision, I held Aurora's tiny hand, my heart full of both relief and sorrow. I never wanted it to come to this. But some wounds, no matter how much you want to forgive, simply can't be repaired. My family, my parents, aunts, uncles, reacted just as strongly. When they learned Madison had betrayed me, no one wanted anything to do with her. My dad, usually the calm one, declared in front of everyone that Madison was no longer part of the family. My mom, in tears, nodded in agreement. Not long after, my parents officially updated their will. Madison's name was removed completely. No inheritance, no claims to any family assets. Even Aunt Ellie, who once adored Madison like her own child, said she'd never forgive her for what she had done. I didn't attend the family meeting where that decision was made. When my mom called to tell me, I simply listened, feeling the weight in her voice. Part of me was sad. Madison was still my blood. But the other part, the one that had survived too much, knew this was necessary to protect Aurora and myself from wounds that would never heal. As for Lucas, after the court ruling, he did the bare minimum. He sent child support on time each month, not a cent more, not a day late, but otherwise disappeared from Aurora's life. The few supervised visits he attended took place in cold, stiff rooms where Aurora was too young to understand why Daddy was just a stranger. I once thought Lucas might change when he saw her, but each time he sat in silence, asked a few awkward questions, then left like an outsider fulfilling an obligation. Aurora grew up in the arms of those who chose to love her with their whole hearts. My parents became my strongest support, helping care for her in every way. On weekends, Grandpa taught her songs, and Grandma showed her how to fold animals from paper. Some nights, after putting Aurora to bed, I sat alone in the living room, the soft yellow light casting my shadow on the empty wall. I'd think about the past, about Madison, about Lucas, and wonder, do they ever regret it? Does Madison ever look back at what we once shared and feel any remorse? But then I'd glance at Aurora's peaceful face, hear her gentle breathing in sleep, and I'd know the past no longer mattered. One autumn afternoon, just after I picked Aurora up from daycare, my phone rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. The voice on the other end sent chills down my spine. "Sophia, it's me, Madison. Please don't hang up," she stammered, her voice trembling like someone on the edge. I gripped the phone. Every muscle in my body tensed. The world seemed to freeze. I took a deep breath, kept my tone even. What could you possibly have left to say to me? Madison didn't answer right away. I only heard her sobbing softly for a while. Then finally she said, "I'm pregnant." "It's Lucas's child." My heart clenched. I thought I'd endured enough pain that nothing could break me anymore. But hearing that Madison, who had betrayed me so cruelly, was now carrying Lucas's baby, I felt my body go cold, like time had stopped in the middle of my quiet little home. I bit my lip to stay composed and asked, voice icy, "And why are you calling me?" Madison broke down crying. "Lucas doesn't want the baby. He told me to get rid of it. He doesn't care. I have no one, Sophia." Mom and Dad cut me off. The whole family turned their backs. "You're all I have left." I held Aurora close, feeling her little body warm against my chest. A part of me wanted to scream, to unleash every ounce of pain, rage, and humiliation that had built up over the months. But I knew any word I spoke would only waste energy on someone who didn't deserve it. I let out a breath, my voice like ice. "You made your choice the day you sent me that picture. And now? You'll have to live with it," Madison begged, nearly screaming. "You know how hard it is to be a single mom, Sophia. You've been through it. Please, I'm begging you. Don't abandon me now." I looked into Aurora's clear eyes and saw a reflection of myself, a woman who had risen from the ruins, who would never again let anyone walk all over her. "You left me when I was at my lowest," I said, my voice firm, each word like a hammer. "You mocked me, stabbed me in the back, and paraded your victory with cruelty. And now you want me to reach out and save you?" I paused, letting the silence cut between us like a blade, then finished. "I don't hate you, Madison. I don't care anymore." Without giving her another chance, I ended the call, blocked the number, and set my phone down. Aurora stirred in my arms, breathing the soft, peaceful breaths of a little angel. I knew I had done the right thing, not because I was cruel, but because I had learned. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone to hurt you again. It took me nearly a year to rebuild my life after everything that happened. When Aurora turned 1, I decided it was time to stand on my own again. With savings from my blogging days and help from my parents, I found a small apartment on the outskirts of Greenville. A quiet place, close enough for my parents to visit, but far enough for me and my daughter to have our own space. The day I signed the lease and held the new keys in my hand, tears rolled silently down my cheeks. Not from sadness, but because, for the first time in a long time, I truly felt free. I hired a young nanny named Chloe, kind, gentle, and wonderful with children. Chloe watched Aurora during the day while I worked full-time at a local media company. Every evening, I'd come home, take Aurora from Chloe's arms, and hold her close like the whole world was wrapped in that tiny body. Our life, though busy and sometimes exhausting, found a gentle rhythm. No more fights, no more sarcasm, no more betrayal lurking in the shadows. Meanwhile, Madison gave birth to a baby boy. I only heard the news through my mom, the only family member who decided to visit Madison after she gave birth. Bull said Madison delivered alone in a small hospital on the outskirts, no friends or family by her side except for a kind elderly nurse. Lucas, just as he had promised, never showed up, never sent congratulations. He just wired the child support like a distant obligation. My mom held the baby in her arms, her eyes filled with quiet sorrow as she looked at a child born into such loneliness. She said Madison begged her for forgiveness, crying and pleading to be accepted again. But Mom, with a heart long shattered, gently placed the baby back in the crib and whispered that she had come for the innocent child, not for the daughter she once loved unconditionally. My dad was different. He never mentioned Madison again. To him, the betrayal was beyond repair. The years Madison had spent tearing the family apart were, to him, over for good. As for me, I continued my healing journey. I signed up for therapy at a local counseling center. My therapist, Megan, helped me unravel every emotional knot. Through each session, I realized I didn't need Madison's validation. I didn't need an apology from Lucas. I just needed to love myself, flawed, strong, and full of fire. Some evenings, after tucking Aurora into bed, I'd sit alone in our small kitchen, a warm cup of tea in my hands, staring at the dim glow of the streetlights through the curtains. I thought of Madison, of all the bitterness that had passed, and for the first time in my life, I felt peace. No more anger, no more blame, just silence. Like a still lake after a storm, Aurora grew each day with a bright smile and hopeful eyes. Every tiny step she took reminded me that the past doesn't define the future. I chose to move forward, and Aurora was the living proof of that choice. One afternoon, as I picked Aurora up from daycare, she threw her arms around me and chirped, "I love you, Mommy." In that moment, every scar, every night I cried alone, every heartbreak, it all felt worth it. I smiled, lifted Aurora high in the air, and whispered to myself, "We made it through, and the life ahead, wide and open, waits for us to write a new chapter, one built on love, courage, and an unbreakable spirit." My story isn't just about surviving betrayal, it's about finding myself again. From someone who once lived in the shadow of jealousy and pain, I stood up for my daughter and for my own heart. Losing so much taught me that not everyone with the title family knows how to love, but it also showed me how to build a new life, one shaped by self-respect, bravery, and the purest love of all, the love I give Aurora every single day. What do you think about the choice I made in this story? Was I too harsh, or was that the only way to protect myself and Aurora? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful family stories like this one.